All right, I'd like to call to order this meeting of Salem City Council for Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Tigan.
Present.
Councilor Nishioka.
I'm here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
Councilor Gwynn.
Here.
Councilor Brown.
Present.
Councilor Vang.
Here.
Councilor Nordyke.
Here.
Councilor Varney. Here. Mayor Julie Hoy.
Here. All right, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is that way. All right, Councilor Nishioka, go ahead with item 1.
Yes. I move to approve the special meeting agenda.
Second. Motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to your motion.
I think we all know we're here for a special meeting.
Great. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Councilor Nishioka, do we have any additions or deletions?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on then to public comment. Absolutely. Yep. Okay, before we call the public to the podium, I'm wondering if any of the councilors have any comments that they would like to make. Councilor Vang?
Thank you, Mayor. What started out as business as usual for our boards and commissions reappointment has become a front and center conversation in the last couple of weeks. I want to make it absolutely clear. My vote to reappoint Mr. Hedquist is not meant to dismiss or disrespect the family of Nikki Thrasher. What happened to her was horrific and unforgivable. I cannot even begin to imagine the pain her loved ones are carrying every day, or how this process has resurfaced that pain. My vote to reappoint was based on my values of fair treatment, people's capacity to change, and in restorative justice. I want to set the record straight with facts regarding this reappointment, these public safety boards, and clear up any misinformation out there. 1, I do not know Mr. Hedquist. 2, I do believe people change, especially over multiple decades and years. 3, Mr. Hedquist served his sentence over 28 years. He has completed what the courts required of him. He spends his time working on opening warming shelters for our homeless. He also spends his time helping others who've served their time become productive members of our community. 4, he was already serving on this board for 2 years without incident. 5, the Board and Appointments Committee recommended to not reappoint Mr. Hedquist based on his conviction. 6, the Boards and Appointment Committee did not provide any clear criteria of what Mr. Hedquist has done during his first term that would warrant or justify a change. Without transparent, objective standards, this decision was subjective and unfair. 7, multiple community members serve on these boards to provide a diverse perspective from our community. 8, the Community Police Review Board is advisory. This means board members review decisions and make recommendations. At no point does this board or a single board member have any authority over police personnel decisions. Police personnel decisions are decided by the city manager and the chief of police. 9, as to the reappointment, there was no objective standard in place for the removal or any actions Mr. Hedquist took during his first term that would disqualify him from reappointment. 10, every councilor and mayor on this stage, except for Councilor Tigan, has acted to appoint Mr. Hedquist to keep him on the police review board. Let me say that again. Every councilor and mayor, except for Tigan, had acted to appoint Mr. Hedquist or keep him on this board. 11, when first considered for reappointment in 2024, Mr. Hedquist noted on his application that he had been president of Lifers Unlimited, a group of incarcerated people serving life sentences. At no point did he try to hide that fact. 12, despite that, back in 2024, Councilor Gwen made the motion to appoint him and voted yes. Then Councilor Julie Hoy voted to appoint him too. The council then unanimously appointed him. Unanimously. 13, after his appointment in 2024, Mr. Hedquist attended the remaining 2 meetings that year. There was no public outcry then. 15, when the details of Mr. Hedquist's life sentence was brought before the boards and commission this past fall, no one advocated for his removal, including the mayor. Councilor Gwen said, quote, "It would be incredibly unjust to remove someone who's been an active board member," end quote. Councilor Matthews and Nordyke agreed. 16, before the December 8th City Council meeting, where I made the motion to reappoint, the Police Review Board did not meet in 2025. It was only after his reappointment on December 9th did Mr. Hedquist attend and did that board convene. 17, yet, with all of this on the table, starting on December 22nd, I have been targeted with death threats. I have been called racial slurs. I have been called to be fired from my employment for reappointing him. 18, as a reminder, every single one of us, councilors and mayor sitting on this stage, we are all volunteers. We are not paid. We do this work because we care deeply about our community. So with these facts out in the open, out to the public, I appreciate the special session so that we can have this discussion further. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Varney.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Councilor Vang, for bringing up all those important points, especially this evening. Tonight, I thought that it was supposed to be a discussion and an adoption of policy and procedure. I'm really actually concerned because I've learned more and more that there have been meetings occurring, things outside of public purview. Things change for this meeting without the input of those it impacts. Things going on kind of behind the scenes, all the way up until tonight, little clues that I've been hearing or not hearing. You know, we're already under the microscope of the Ethics Commission due to serial meeting violations. I mean, thank goodness, it's taken a whole year, but we've gotten most of those resolved. But that all started back last January. You know, and those involve discussions behind closed doors and decisions that were made that didn't have the input they probably should have and didn't have the public purview. So tonight's special council meeting has become a much bigger than a discussion of who stays or doesn't stay on the CPRB and why. There have been a lot of actions that have taken place since the middle of December. And actually, as I said, since tonight was supposed to be a discussion on an adoption of policy and procedure, but to me it seems that number one, too often we've been getting the cake after it's been baked, and often the goalposts get moved. To me, in my opinion, tonight's meeting has become a circus because of behind-the-scenes discussions and input from folks who want to make it a spectacle so they can get in the news under a false narrative. the input of the folks that we would need into these decisions hasn't been done. I hear about these conversations going on or these little meetings or whatever, and then we get the materials, we get things, and I just feel like too often many of us are left out until it comes before us, kind of like the paved path at Wallace Marine Park that I brought up a lot of concerns about. So for me, because of this, I am really uncomfortable with continuing. I don't want any more ethics violations, and I am not going to participate. I'm going to leave. Just letting you all know.
Anyone else? Councilor Matthews?
Well, this is starting off different than I expected. I don't even honestly know fully what to say. I think the biggest thing I feel like I need to respond to is my name was brought a lot in Councilor Vang's comments, and I think I just need to, I guess, set the record straight that as soon as the opportunity came to reopen the position, I think it was pretty clear what my position was on that, and the fact that I made the motion, Councilor Vang. And you know, politics are always tough. I mean, this is just, whether this is supposed to be partisan, this is not supposed to be partisan, all those things with this role, politics are really hard. And sometimes when your ship is sinking, it's really, it's convenient and it's a natural reaction to try to reach out and try to sink other ships. And so I hope that naturally we can try to keep this particular body as wholesome as it can be to try to push those politics and those natural reactions out the window and try to do the things that are supposed to be good governance, because that's what we're here for in the first place. So that's, I guess those are my comments for tonight.
Anyone else? Councilor Brown?
If not, I'll say mine.
All right, I will add, while I'm grateful we're here tonight, I think it's unfortunate that this issue has taken up so much of our limited time. We have committees for a reason. The committee that reviews these appointments, of which I am a member, vetted this appointment and made a recommendation to the full council not to reappoint, but for Councilor Nordyke. The message many of the community heard in this ensuing vote to override that recommendation was that this was political on the part of those who voted yes. I might add that this was also the recommendation of staff to the committee, that we not uphold the position. We do operate in a political environment, and yet I firmly believe we do our best to work as a body when we set politics aside and vote for what is best for the community. I truly hope that's what we are here to do tonight. Anyone else? In that case, we're going to move on to public comment. I do have a little precursor for that. We are here to treat each other with respect, compassion, and grace. It's important to give everyone an equal opportunity to speak. It's important we do not interrupt speakers by speaking over them or other outbursts. Please avoid excessive applause or cheering or expressions of dissatisfaction. That only interrupts and distracts from other speakers and interferes with council's ability to listen well and conduct the meeting. All right, I will call two names at once. Please come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Press the button in front of you till the light turns on green, and please state your name, your address, or your ward for the record. Fred Thompson and Tracy Putnam. Fred, hit that button so the green light comes on, please. On that little black box right there. There you go.
That one? Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Fred Thompson, I live on South Salem, 4554 12th Avenue South. Hearing about this individual being on the board, I'm quite concerned about how he got there. And I understand that there was not a background check done on this individual. I belong to a business group, and we do a background check on anybody that comes into our group. And in my office, we have 5 lawyers. So why wouldn't the city council ever do a background check on an individual who was found guilty of aggravated murder, robbery in the 1st degree, and 3 counts of kidnapping in the 2nd degree? Now, I understand that the governor felt sorry for him because he was 17 years old when that happened. My father-in-law went into World War II when he was 16 years old and fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. I was drafted at 18 years old, and I went to Vietnam. Doesn't mean that somebody that's a teenager doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. This was a terrible, terrible killing of this young girl. This is terrible that he executed her and then threw her out on the side of the road like you wouldn't even do that to a dog. And let alone you're bringing him into our society and having him doing this, he should be spending the rest of his life in prison. You don't change the spots on a leopard. And when you're in prison, and I've had opportunities to be with a number of people that have been incarcerated, what they learn in prison is how to fool a lot of people, how to convince you that they're not what you read about them. So I'm really shocked that this board would allow this individual to be on the police board. My God, the policemen are somebody that I have total respect for, and we need to support them. And have somebody with this background running around with the police department is totally wrong. So with that, I'm really, really disappointed that this city would adopt somebody like that and put him on boards. He should be doing whatever he needs to do for the rest of his life to be able to bring honor to that young lady that he killed. And he should be doing that privately. He should be putting something together to honor her as best that he can. You know, I lost 9 guys in Vietnam, 5 in one day, and I think about them every day of my life. And it took me 50 years to find the family here in Oregon that was one of the soldiers that I lost. And it took me a couple of years to be able to put all the information together to provide for his family what actually.
I'm sorry, Fred. Your 3 minutes has expired. Thank you for your testimony. Tracy Putnam and Ricky Howell.
Is it green? Oh, good. I'm sorry, I've never done this before. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Tracy Putnam, and I am in Ward 4. I want to speak tonight from a place of faith and compassion, the same faith that guides how I see people and how I believe a community should operate. A tragedy happened many, many years ago. A precious life was lost. That grief is real, and it takes away, it always will be part of the story. Nothing said here takes away the hurt that family has carried all these years. My faith teaches that God does not leave us where he finds us. He restores us, he reshapes us, and he offers every one of us the chance to walk in a new identity. Mr. Hedquist faced the consequences of his actions. He served the sentence required, and since then he has lived quietly, responsibly, and with purpose. That is the fulfillment of what our justice system is meant to be and meant to achieve. So the question I wrestle with is, and I want all of us to consider, is this. if someone has paid their debt to society and spent decades living differently, when do we allow them back into full participation? If the answer is never, then we are closing a door that even God does not close. I believe there is room in our community and on our committees for people who have come through hard seasons and learned from them. Sometimes those are the voices that bring the most humility, care, and perspective. We can honor a life that was lost. We can protect and uplift our city. And we can also embrace the truth that people can change and that a changed life has value to offer back. Thank you for listening, and may God's wisdom be with each one of you as you serve this city. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ricky Howell and Scott Knight.
Okay. What a lot of people don't realize in here is I've heard that prison makes you a bad person, you know. And I've known Kyle many, many years. I've been on the other side of those walls. And he's helped more people come out of prison as a better person than I've known. He was the president of the clubs that I relished to join. You know, he gave me chances. He showed me how it is to be a human in a non-human place. You know what I'm saying? And to see him out here on the street without anybody knowing anything about him, he achieved everything that any of you or anybody in this audience would have ever wanted any person to do. He did something wrong. There's not nobody out here can say they didn't do anything wrong. Some is worse than others, yeah. But he's paid his time, you know. He helps the homeless, you know. I deal with the NA, I deal with the homeless, I'm one of those that's not supposed to be out of prison, you know. I've never gone back, never had a violation, never had any of this stuff. And I owe it to people like Kyle to show me how it is to live out on these streets. Because it's hard out here when you do 12, 15, 20, 30 years in prison. You know what I'm saying? So without anybody looking at what his crime was, he actually achieved what any normal human being on this planet does. So it's just the fact of when he was 17, he did a crime. He did his time. When do we say enough is enough? I mean, should he always have to wake up every single day and think about this girl and hate himself and hate his life and want to just quit? Or respect her, honor her, and show that he can be something with his life and keep going and going and going, and show the police review board that everybody needs to be on this board. You know, if it's always just a person that never speeds, why have speed limits? You know what I'm saying? And with that, I'm done.
Thank you for your testimony. Scott Knight and Kyle Hedquist.
Thank you. If I go over, I'm sorry, I'll ask for a couple seconds. If Ward 8 can leave, I can take her time. I'm here to address the dangerous absurdity of your decision to seat Kyle Hedquist on the Police Oversight Board. Mr. Hedquist is a convicted murderer. While his life sentence was commuted, the life he stole was not. You cannot commute a victim back to existence. Yet some of this council saw fit to grant a man barred from volunteering at a school or even sitting in a police cruiser, unless it's in the back, the authority to oversee law enforcement. If he's unfit for a retail job, why is he being handed the keys to civic power? Councilor Nordyke, I want to speak to you directly. You've often spoken about how deeply your experience with child abuse cases shaped your worldview, saying, "Those cases had a huge life-changing impact on how I saw the world." As Executive Director of CASA of Marion County, you emphasize that CASA helps kids find safety and stability, better grades, and brighter futures, highlighting that your commitment to protecting these valuable children. You also said, "When it came to my child abuse cases, it was my job to keep child molesters behind bars. But at CASA, I can break the cycle of abuse once and for all." You cannot claim to protect the foster children of Marion County while validating their destroyers. This isn't just a lapse in judgment, it's a betrayal of the values you campaign on. You should know that Kyle's victim, Miss Thrasher, was herself a foster child. Let that sit in for a second. You, the Executive Director of CASA, took someone who dragged a foster child out into the woods and shot him in the back of the head to a police oversight board. Are you kidding me? Our city deserves leadership that strengthens safety and common sense. That would be Mayor Hoy. Councilor Nordyke, you are not and will never be fit for mayor after demonstrating such a horrific lack of judgment. And Councilor Vang, I'm not even sure why you brought this motion to the council. It's not progressive, it's insane. Tonight's motion to remove him is the right choice, but let's be honest, it's not moral conviction, it's damage control. The facts haven't changed since your last vote, only the level of public backlash. You didn't find a conscience by bringing this motion, you found a political fire you couldn't put out. And the backpedal is transparent, a transparent attempt at salvage your credibility after making our city a national laughingstock. This community is not interested in your excuses or your resume. To Mayors Hoy, Councilor Teagan, Gwynn, and Matthews, thank you for standing up for common sense from the start. You're a credit to your constituents and give me hope that some brains are still left on this council. To Brown, Nordyke, Vang, Nishioka, and Varney, if she were still here, you can backpedal all you want, but you've shown your hand. The community will remember that when decency was on the line, you chose convenience over safety. I've got 25 seconds left. You mentioned that everybody knew. They didn't know he was a convicted murderer. As soon as they did, they changed their tune. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you're the next mayor. I don't think you're going to make it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Kyle Hedquist and Kate Stathy.
Thank you, council members and Mayor Julie Hoy. My name is Kyle Hedquist, and I'm in Ward 1. In mid-June, out of the blue, the call came from the city for a background check. Routine email, or so I thought. I gave the answers, shared my history again. I thought this was a process of a city moving forward. I didn't realize it was the blueprint for a step back. I stand here, a member in good standing, checked every box, met every requirement, fulfilled every voluntary duty. Yet mysteriously, I became the ghost in your machine. A smear campaign rose from the shadows, websites, texts, emails, phones buzzing with the static of hate. Some forces unknown, some known, touting endorsements, shaming me for the skin I've outgrown, threatening me with the very violence they claim to oppose. Now, after 2 years of dedicated service on multiple boards, the police union president, the mayor, the district attorney, voices that should uphold the law instead fan the flames of hate. A minority political force trying to undo a ratified signature, trying to erase a decision already made twice. For 11,364 days, I have carried the weight of the worst decision of my life. I carry that every day. There is not a day that has gone by in my life that I have not thought about the actions that brought me to prison. I replay the details. I search for a way back to my own humanity through the wreckage of that singular moment. The death of Nikki Thrasher is the gravity that pulls at everything I do. I ended her life, and I am forced to live with the agonizing math of that reality. I can never give enough, serve enough, or do enough to equal the life that I took. That debt is unpayable. But it is that same debt that drives me back into the community, onto high school campuses, into college lecture halls. I speak because I am the living evidence of what happens when violence wins, and I want to ensure it never wins again. There is a hollow version of this story circulating, one shaped by AI-generated images and storylines, detached narratives that flatten the truth. They do not tell the story of Nikki. They do not tell the story of me. This is nothing more than rage bait. People think they know what happened, but the real story is so much more complex and painful. It involves an entire community, 4 high school boys, 2 women, and a compromise.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Hedquist. Mr. Hedquist, your time has expired. Mr. Hedquist, your time has expired. Kate Strathty and Kyle Black.
Hello. On Christmas Day, like some of you, I woke to death threats following a citywide smear campaign created by those in our community sworn to protect us. And since then, our lives have changed. Eyes follow Kyle everywhere in public. Our jobs and future prospects have been impacted. We're concerned for our safety and Kyle's freedom every day. All of this for a volunteer position with little to no real influence, as you have said. Kyle was never asked by the city if he would like to step down from the board. He was asked for a background check, complied, told the truth. The matter escalated without a conversation or dignity from boards and commissions to council. And after council voted to keep Kyle on the CPRB, unions launched a campaign that included a website, mass messaging to a good portion of the city, and media pressure. This resulted in more than 20 news stories, more this week, whose comment sections called for Kyle's execution. He's not on trial. So what happens if someone does harm him? How far are you going to let this go? Kyle doesn't have more power or access to information than any other resident, and the CPRB meetings are public and recorded. Anyone can attend or watch. He was released from prison in 2022 with almost nothing. He never expected to be released. Department of Corrections supported his clemency. You talk about Kate Brown, you don't talk about this. They said, we have nothing more to offer Mr. Hedquist. And since his release, Kyle finished his bachelor's degree, leads support groups in the community, speaks at universities, and serves this community every day. We live quiet lives of service, and we will continue to do so, regardless of the outcome today. But people often ask about the victim's family. It's illegal to contact the victims in Oregon. Yet the victim's family has again been placed in the center of a re-traumatizing media storm, not by Kyle. The CPRB exists for police oversight, not police comfort. It was created because of past abuses of power. Who would come forward now with a police misconduct complaint after seeing what's happened to us and the city councilors? So I leave you with a final consideration, and I'm talking about the CPRB. If oversight cannot withstand pressure from those it oversees, it is not oversight, it is performance. History does not judge oversight of public bodies by their intentions, but by whether they hold when tested. This moment is a test for Salem. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Kyle Black and Christy Margraves.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members and attendees. My name is Kyle Colleen Black. I'm from Ward Number 1. As someone who has experienced incarceration, I want to share my strong support for the inclusion of formerly incarcerated individuals on community boards and commissions in Oregon. It is essential that we stand together to prevent the exclusion of people from serving our communities. The messages shared by Councilor Vang resonate deeply with me, displaying an unwavering unwavering belief in fair treatment, people's capacity to change, and the process of restorative justice. The recent campaign of intimidation and threats displayed by county agencies is not an attack on Kyle. It is an attack on anyone who has had a felony conviction. The hostility and hatred that has been generated, supported, and allowed to escalate is unacceptable. The actions being committed today by upright community members is as deplorable as Kyle's actions were 30 years ago. The process surrounding Kyle's appointment has been deeply concerning. Despite his willingness to comply with the city's requirements and his genuine commitment to serve, he has been met with hostility instead of support. It is disheartening that the city did not reach out for discussion or to provide an opportunity to address any concerns directly. Instead, they escalated the situation without any consideration. This exclusionary approach is not transparent and rises to the level of dishonesty. It sends a clear message to others in our community that we are not welcome to participate in meaningful ways. Despite the number of references Marion County makes about its investment in second chances, 4,000 people release on a yearly basis, 400 and some of them released to Marion County. This conversation transcends this incident. It clearly reflects how individuals who have been incarcerated are treated when a desire is expressed to contribute positively to our society. It raises important questions about our community's commitment to the values of inclusion, rehabilitation, and restorative justice. Can we truly advocate for second chances while simultaneously working to keep those very individuals excluded from participation? Community programs that prompt the idea of redemption and second chances are hypocritical when our institutions fail to practice what they preach. We need to challenge this narrative and ensure that our community lives up to its own stated values. Each one of us, regardless of our past, deserves a chance to serve and contribute to the greater good. This is not just about Kyle. It is about ensuring that all of those who have faced incarceration can participate in shaping our community's future. Let us stand together to advocate for a county and hopefully a state where all are given an opportunity to contribute regardless of their past. Together we can help change the narrative and create a more equitable community for everyone. Thank you.
Christy Margraves and Brian Shaw. Be sure to announce your name and your address or ward for the record. Thank you. You got it.
Good evening. My name is Christy Margraves. I'm representing Ward 6, and I stand here tonight for truth, consistency, and the heart of who we claim our city to be. For the last month, we have seen something ugly in Salem. A controversy broke, and a surge of slander and exaggeration came about. Our own district attorney began this rhetoric when she went on camera and compared the role that Kyle had on the board as having a child molester run a daycare. As we found out what this board was, it is a far reach. It is 7 people that make up this board, and it is to do one thing, to help the police department handle a complaint after a citizen feels that they were not handled well. That is it. Review, not authority. Recommendation, not operation. In the 2 years that he had already served, the board successfully reviewed one single community complaint, one. Very few complaints ever make it to the board at all, and that is evidence for something working well. For the past 5 years, Salem has had a police chief of outstanding character who has trained, educated, and elevated the police department with a standard that makes citizens trust the process before it ever needs to be escalated. I'm proud of the Salem Police Department and the leadership that has been called higher. Now about Kyle, we've already heard what he has done. He was sentenced to life, never expected to be released, though other men would go home. When he saw that there was little to be offered to them, he fought for more programs, more education, more training, more rehabilitation. And for 30 years, he chose action over outrage. He stepped into the gaps. He challenged what was broken. He worked to make things better, not louder. And Salem, we need more community members who run towards solutions, not headlines. People who see problems and choose to be part of the answer. We cannot shout when we want standards, integrity, and community voices, while we excuse slander and exaggeration from those demanding them. We cannot ask for solution-minded people and then reject one who has already proven that he is who he is. Supporting Kyle's continued service is not saying the past wasn't painful. Salem must judge a man by his present character and demonstrated fruit. I say it plainly, Salem, do better than the noise, do better than the fear, do better than the drama, and lead by truth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brian Shaw and Ronnie Daniels. Please remember to state your address, your name, your address, or ward for the record.
My name is Brian Shaw. I live in Ward 8. Go Ducks. My opinions are mine and not necessarily those of my employer. As we all now know, unbelievably, in a 5-4 vote, the City Council voted to put an aggravated murder onto the Citizens Police Review Board. This really isn't about Kyle. This is about your bad judgment. This should have been the simplest 9-0 no vote you've ever made. A simple internet search provided all the details of his crimes. If any of the 5 city councilors are saying that they did not know the details of his crimes, they are not being truthful. To Mayor Hoy, Councilors Teagan, Matthews, and Gwynn, thank you for your common sense in making this decision. To Councilors Nishioka, Brown, Vang, Nordyke, and Varney, if she were here, your poor judgment and lack of common sense should concern all the citizens of Salem. If you made this decision, what other decisions have you or will you make? The cascade of news that has been local, national, and worldwide, along with statements from our district attorney and the Douglas County District Attorney, should at least cause you to question your decision. We all know the story now. In 1994, Kyle Hedquist killed Nikki Thrasher. He took her down a remote road, made her get out, made her walk. She became so terrified that she began to hyperventilate, and then he shot her in the back of the head. To top this murder off, he also committed an armed robbery at a Pizza Hut where he tied up the employees, put a gun to their head, and told them he was going to shoot them in the head if they didn't open the safe. This is the person that you voted to a community police review board. It's hard to believe. Shockingly, in 2022, Governor Brown commuted his sentence against the advice of many people, again, including our district attorney, Paige Clarkson, and he was released to Salem. Even one of the most liberal U.S. senators, Senator Ron Wyden, criticized Governor Brown's decision, saying, plain and simple, I oppose this grossly irresponsible use of the clemency powers. This is who you voted for. Since your decision has exploded in both the media and social media and the media, several councilors have made statements. Councilor Nordyke, while it appears you're changing your decision, you have made numerous statements about Kyle Hedquist. I don't remember you saying the word Nikki Thrasher one time in any of those. Could be wrong. Or talked about the severity of his crime. You mentioned you're running for mayor. This decision should wholly disqualify you for that position.
Thank you for your testimony. I'm sorry your time has expired. Ronnie Daniels and Bill Smaldone.
And my voice be loud enough. My name is Ronnie Daniels. I'm out of Polk County. I do about 68% of my economic business in your city. Look, just hearing what I'm hearing right now. Yes, I'm a foster child. The crime was heinous, everything else. I'm not condoning it, but those, and I don't know, I'm blaming the mayor, and you should never be threatened, or he should never be threatened. That's wrong. Freedom of speech should be available to everybody. And if we make mistakes, we humble ourselves. He without sin cast the first stone. But at the same time, if this was Thailand, where I watched somebody get hung for those type of heinous crimes, we have a tendency in this city, I'll go right up the street to the cue ball. 2 years, Jim Lebo owned that business. And at the same time, I'm watching this city police department turn it into Stockton, California. enabling. This city received over $575 million to $620 million for drug rehabilitation and homeless. What we got for going on? We're enabling it. Your cities are turning into a cesspool of trash that the taxpayers, through their property taxes, paid time and time and time against these increases. The question should be, is who did the vetting process before the gentleman got there? And, you know, the mayor and the city council don't know. If it ain't pre-vetted out, we need to get a program to vet out. Now, I'm not blaming this man or this, that, or another. Whatever decision been made, God should hold him accountable accordingly. But at the same time, we need to get back to law and order. Your get out of jail rate, 35% incarceration rate in the city. My people have friends that owns tow truck companies, been broken into several times. And the kids be released. You need to get on the county district attorney's cornhole and get her head out of it and make accountability law for law. The main point I'm trying to make, don't laugh please, I'm just getting to the point. The point is this, when you enable, now, if he's in other committees, in my opinion, you should stick to one committee so that way you don't have no conflict of interest in other committees. If I volunteer for one committee in the city government, that's what I do. But if there's more than one, that's my concern about the situation. But the main point again, when I call the police department, or go on the police station, oh, you need to just leave a report, leave a message, instead of enforcing law. But you know, I'm watching the police department as of 3 days ago, act like emotional support dogs right there at Market with 6 police cars when those resources could have been used other places. And the last thing I will say is, if you don't enforce the law equally, and you can only, person deserve 1 break, but when you give them 10,000 breaks, you don't have a community.
Thank you for your testimony. Your time has expired. Bill Smaldone. Bill Smaldone and Tom Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I want to just comment tonight by commending Councilor Vang, first of all, for initiating Mr. Hedquist's reappointment when he had been recommended to be removed, and also for sticking to her guns this evening, following the reasons that she outlined, I thought, so eruditely earlier tonight. It's a moment when I really felt proud of our city council, when the choice had to be made between reappointing Mr. Hedquist in line with the idea that this council believes in restorative justice, believes in rehabilitation, believes in second chances. And so I felt really good that we had decided to do that rather than go down the road of endless punishment where no one can ever recover oneself. Now it appears that we might be reversing that. I think it's really hard. I know it's really hard. I have also sat in this body, and I know that many difficult decisions have to be made. I also know that when I sat in the council, the discourse in our society was not as raw, it was not as brutal. What you have been exposed to during the debate on this issue is really quite the sign of the times. The brutality, right, that we now accept as normal. I'm hoping that that discourse allows you to stick with the decision, with the ethical decision that you made when you voted to reappoint Mr. Hedquist. No matter what decision you make, though, I would also like to hear the mayor say something decisive about the need, essentially, to protect the person of our councilors, the need to combat the spectacle that's been created by certain political forces in our community that have acted, in a sense, to expose all of you by distributing your names and addresses, your phone numbers, to expose you to violence. And I'm hoping that the mayor will speak against that publicly in the newspapers. I have not seen it thus far. So thank you for your time this evening. I know it's a very hard decision. I hope you will stick to your guns and reaffirm.
Thank you for your testimony. Tom Johnson and Alan Roche.
Good evening, Mayor Hoy and members of the City Council. My name is Tom Johnson, and I believe I'm a member of Ward 3, Councilor Gwynn's Ward 4. As a board member of the Salem Police Employees Union, I am here to share how disappointed I was to hear that 5 members of the City Council voted in favor of keeping a convicted murderer on the CPRB. I understand that there was little or no vetting process that occurred when he was first appointed. However, when his criminal history became known to the members of this council, I would have expected the majority, if not all of the council, to recognize that his crimes, although many years in the past, would automatically preclude him from sitting on an oversight committee such as the CPRB. There are some crimes that are so heinous that once committed, there will be repercussions that will follow the offender forever. The family of Nikki Thrasher, who was killed, will forever live with the void left in their lives as a result of her brutal murder. Just as we would not allow a convicted child molester to run a daycare or work as a grade school teacher, a man convicted in the execution death of a teenage girl should never have any involvement in the oversight of a law enforcement agency. I know that in the last few weeks, some members of this council have expressed that they did not know all of the details of the murder committed by Mr. Hedquist when they voted to reappoint him to the CPRB. This is almost more concerning than the decision to reappoint him, in my opinion. Upon learning he was convicted of aggravated murder, I do not understand why the members of this council would not put a pause on any discussion about his reappointment until all the facts were known before making such an important decision. I would like to close by thanking Mayor Hoy, Councilors Gwynn, Teagan, and Matthews for using common sense in voting not to reappoint Mr. Hedquist after learning of his significant criminal history. And I hope that the voters of the City of Salem remember how the respective councilors and mayor voted when it comes time for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Alan Roche and Betsy Vega.
Good evening. My name is Alan Roche. I'm in Ward 4. Just a couple points that I'd like to make. First and foremost, Kyle, from the sounds of it, sounds like you've been redeemed. I just hope you have made your peace and been forgiven.
Could you please address the council?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I'll say it this way. Kyle, I sure hope that you have made your peace with God and you've received forgiveness from him, but we do serve a just God. And justice, part of that is justice. And there is accountability for our actions, period. Nobody gets away with it. We all are accountable for our own actions. And part of the consequences of the crime that you committed, according to Genesis, is death. Genesis 9, verse 6 says that a man that takes a life, his life shall be taken. For every man is made in the image of God, and that's sacred. However, you can be restored and be redeemed, but your capacities are now limited. Those are called consequences. Mai Vang and a few other ones out here, you've been saying he served his time. No, he did not. His time was life without parole. Our governor at that time, the same governor that legalized hard drugs in our city, and we saw the damage it did there, is the one that released him. Understand that completely. Okay? Although you've been redeemed, Kyle, and I appreciate that and all you do for our city, there are certain roles that you have to understand you can never hold again. You forfeited that with your actions at that time. So with that being said, I want to point out a couple other things. Vanessa, it's clear you're a politician. You flip-flop even during city council meetings. You did it last time. You ridiculed the process, making jokes about the guidelines. You have to have an art degree or a landscaper to be on this committee. You downplayed it, made fun of it, and 15 minutes later you turned around and said, we need to have stricter criteria for these appointments, so we put the right people in the right positions. And you just did it again, and part of that's what made news is you going public. I didn't have all the information, which I find is ironic, being the executive director for CASA and being a previous prosecutor. You came in to make a vote uninformed. I find that hard to believe. You were voting on what you thought the public was going to accept. And when you found out that wasn't true, you changed your mind. We don't need politics here. We need government and city council, not politicians. People that are here representing us, the people that voted you. Now, Councilor Vang, I do commend you. Your integrity is intact. You stood by you stood by what you said, and you're standing by it to this point, regardless of the people that are attacking you, and that's shameful. And I'm sorry that's happening to you. But your integrity speaks more, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Betsy Vega and Jackie Roche.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Betsy Vega and I'm a resident of Ward 6. I am here to testify against the following appointment to Mr. Kyle Hedquist for the City of Salem Community Police Review Board. I am a former state employee with the Department of Human Services Child Welfare Department as a child protective service worker, ongoing case manager, and behavior analyst. You have worked with children in the foster care system, as you did, or you do, Ms. Nordyke. I am currently an advisory board member for Marion County Sheriff Nick Hunter and board member for the City of Salem Cultural Promotion and Tourism. I am a community chaplain and go into the Marion and Polk County jails and talk to inmates on the weekends. Prior to my approval on these boards, I had to go through an application, interview, background process, and wait periods. It's assumed that during this time, a thorough background check is required. I signed documents that asked permission to have my background checked. So my question is, after that background was failed for Mr. Hedquist, why are you appointing a former murderer to the Police Review Board? He was to serve a sentence without parole, however, was granted clemency in 2022. I agree he was a young adult who committed a hideous crime. However, he has served most of his life in an institution. He has only demonstrated less than 2 years being out of prison, which is time to be off of parole. He was very clever to lie on an application to be overseen by those in charge. It was negligent to approve without a thorough background check. However, extremely disturbing how now, knowing this background, and still advocate for an appointment to such a delicate commission. A commission that has protected our citizens and give the privilege to a murderer? I disagree. He can serve on any other board, but why zero in the Community Police Review Board? Because here he can discover internal knowledge to equip other inmates and behave accordingly. Very clever. I am asking that you revoke Mr. Hedquist's appointment to the Police Review Board and instill thorough background checks on every individual to serve on boards and commissions from this day and forward. I had to do it. I am asking that you draft new bylaws and how individuals are appointed to boards and commissions, especially those to serve, including law enforcement and fire review boards, for the safety of our community. Now, I thoroughly believe in redemption and being forgiven, and people do change. He can continue to help the community in other areas, which he has. He can serve on other boards, just not the Community Police Review Board. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Jackie Roche and Elizabeth Parks.
Hello, Jackie Roche, Ward 4. Thank you so much for being here on the special meeting. I just have one thought that I wanted to bring up with this whole situation. I think it's greater than just the Police Review Board. I think that when you guys are talking about guidelines and coming up with protocols and what is expected for the different boards and serving, I would love to also see that as far as like the budget. I know there's like financial related things. So it would be good to be like, all right, so can somebody with embezzlement charge at some point serve. It goes on, and it's kind of just a trickle down, right? So, because this probably isn't the last time we'll deal with somebody who has a record trying to serve, and I think people should serve, but it's just a matter of figuring out what is reasonable with the different boards. So I would just ask that you extend that past just the police review board, which might take a little more time, but that is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Elizabeth Parks and Norman Parks.
I'm Elizabeth Parks, and I'm from Ward 6. And very short, Kyle Hedquist would not be allowed to volunteer at a Marion County jail. Passing a criminal history background check is required. I believe you will be able to find a suitable person to fill the position on the review board. And being here tonight, I didn't add that. I really do appreciate this man's attempt at doing good. And I believe he will be rewarded for doing good. And there are places that he can do that. And I'm very thankful that that is his heart's desire.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Norman Parks and Kathleen Treppa.
Mayor Hoy and members of the council, thank you for letting me address you. Mayor Hoy, thank you for your capable leadership. It is encouraging and extremely appropriate that the Salem City Council is revisiting its appointment of Kyle Hedquist to the Community Police Review Board and the Civil Service Commission. Reportedly, he has been appointed to the Citizens Advisory Traffic Commission as well. These appointments are more than inappropriate. They are alarming and frightening and a huge betrayal of public trust. The crime committed by Mr. Hedquist is without a doubt heinous and hideous, horrific. Though his sentence was commuted, though he was educated, he has educated himself and obeyed the law following his release from prison. His appointment makes no sense. It's ludicrous and insane. Though Mr. Hedquist served 28 years for his hideous crime, Nikki Thrasher is still paying for his crime, along with her family and loved ones, and will pay for eternity. For the sake of our police and fire departments, civil servants, and the populace of Salem, I would beg the Salem City Council to cancel those appointments. Let's restore our public trust. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Kathleen Treppa and Gerald Lindsay.
Thank you very much. Kathleen Treppa, Ward 7, and boy, this is a sad, sorry mess. I would like to commend both Councilors Nordyke and Vang for their thoughtful public statements regarding this incredibly ugly and divisive discussion related to the reappointment of Kyle Hedquist to the Police Review Board. For some councilors and members of the public, Mr. Hedquist's reappointment may have been a cut and dry decision, one way or the other, but for others, it required careful thought regarding the rehabilitation of convicted felons, redemption, second chances, and restorative justice. Philosophically, how do we best reintegrate people who have served their time into society as productive members? And I understand that his sentence was commuted. But isn't it a community benefit to ensure that people released from prison are reintegrated in a constructive way so they don't reoffend? And that is not to condone the atrocities that were committed in the past. There is no doubt that Mr. Hedquist's murder of Nikki Thrasher when he was a 17 or 18-year-old was a heinous and vicious crime. So I understand why public safety staff would be opposed to Mr. Hedquist's reappointment once his murder conviction became known. They are the ones responding to such violent crimes, and they work hard to provide justice for the victims and their families. It makes sense to have more objective standards for who can sit on various boards and commissions to help guide recommendations and decision-making. I suspect that his reappointment will be overturned tonight as a result, and I respect how each counselor will choose to decide to vote this evening. I am, however, completely disgusted by some of the community dialogue that has surrounded this issue and the threats and name-calling that those who voted in the affirmative on December 8th have been subjected to. It is absolutely uncalled for, and there is no place in our public discourse for those threats and vile comments. I also think it is very important that the public safety unions, who have a long history of powerful persuasion when it comes to local politics, that they use their influence responsibly. Employees have the right to free speech outside of work, but anyone intentionally spreading misinformation undermines the credibility of their department, they undermine the credibility of this agency, and it erodes public trust. I hope the police department vigorously investigates the more egregious harassment of council members and that the perpetrators are prosecuted to the full extent possible as appropriate. We should be able to discuss community issues without threats of violence and vicious name-calling. We should be able to discuss facts and interpretation of facts. It's okay to disagree, but it's not okay to intimidate, bully, and threaten others in the process. I'm very sorry some of you have had to deal with the threats and have been subjected to such treatment, and I hope as a community we do better in the future. Thank you.
Gerald Lindsay and Marcia Kelly.
Hi, my name is Gerald Lindsay, and I am from Ward 1. And I just want to make a brief statement that I worked for the state hospital for over 20 years, working with violent and sexual offenders. I just find that this is kind of a little bit like, after working with all those years with all these violent offenders, I find this almost like putting the fox in the hen house is what we're doing here. Why are we taking this gamble? In the past, we'd call these offenders, we'd call them camellias because they'd appear to make themselves appear to be normal people when they'd oftentimes have nefarious alternative motives. Mr. Hedquist can volunteer for any other board, but why are we taking this big chance with him? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Marcia Kelly and Elizabeth Infante.
Marcia Kelly, Ward 2. I was the recipient of 2 text messages regarding this issue, and it led me to do reading about what also was going on. I would reiterate to those people who are so against Mr. Hedquist being on boards or commissions to remember that you may have sinned too, so you are not the person who should be able to cast the first stone. Mr. Hedwick was 17, 18 when the murder occurred. Newest medical investigations on brain disorder, just I think announced last week or the week before, talk about the maturation of the brain between the age of 10 and 32, not 10 and 18. I'm really concerned about what this has done to the community, the ugliness that has come out. I think that Councilor Vang should be commended for her position and taking all of the flack. No one should be told that they should be fired because they made a vote as a private citizen not being paid on a city council board. That is just incredible. All of the threats should be investigated, but they should not be investigated by the Salem police. I think you should check with the state police because the Salem Police Employees Union are the people who are sending out these notices. That is not a good idea. I don't care if it costs money. I don't think the citizens of Salem would believe any sort of an investigation if it's done by the same entity that is spewing hate in this city. I love the city. I spent 30 years on the transit board. I know what it's like to make difficult decisions. I was the board president when we had to cancel Saturday service because we did not get funding. I had a counselor or a board member resign because he didn't believe that we'd actually cancel the service, although he'd signed the voter's pamphlet. Decisions are hard, but people can change. And I think that if you took a look at the 12 letters that were in the commutation, that were in the Salem Reporter article in 2022, you would be amazed at the things that you have learned about the person that you're talking about taking off boards and commissions.
Elizabeth Infante and Tim Cowan.
So I was rethinking a lot of stuff I wanted to say, and to the counselors, it really sucks.
Excuse me, Elizabeth. Would you please announce your name?
My name's Elizabeth Infante. I
And your
live South
ward?
Salem. I know my
Thank you.
ward. What is Ward 6, Ward 4, Ward 3? Okay. Sorry. I don't, amongst all things, I should know that, right? But to the 5 counselors, I think, you guys are going to overcome this. It'll pass. Really, the one that really angers me through this whole process, I'm not going to call him Mr. Hedquist. I'm going to call him AIC Hedquist because that's what he should be. He did not serve out his sentence. His judgment said life. The one that really makes me mad, again, is AIC Hedquist. I met Mr. Hedquist while serving as chair of the Community Review Board last year. The first thing he said to me was he was once a resident of DOC. To me, he wanted to highlight what he had done. If I was ashamed and I didn't really like and I felt horrible for what I did, I'd keep that quiet. I wouldn't put it out there just for somebody to ask. That shows that AIC Hedquist still has that behavior that he had, impulsive, narcissistic, when he was young age. If I was him, I'd be grateful that I was given a second chance. I would have came out to the community, gone into the woods and lived my life out. Not come and ask for people to forgive you publicly. To constantly ask for that gratification from the public. If he needs so badly a sorry, he needs to find that with himself. But him being and forcefully pushing himself on these boards and showing everybody saying, I did good, I'm sorry for what I did. If you were sorry, stop putting yourself out and victimizing the family over and over by having to see your name in the news, having to see that you're still doing what Nikki will never do. My friend Priscilla O'Donnell was shot in the head in December of last year. Her murderer, gonna do 30 years? No, he should do life because she will never be brought back, same as Nikki. So AIC Hedquist should not be here crying and he should not be here screaming, showing us exactly how he's still impulsive. He still has that fire underneath him that he says he doesn't have. He may have done all the great things in prison and helped everybody out. Good, congratulations. When I wrote to you guys and I said what his behavior was, I was concerned about the impulsiveness, what he's going to bring to the board, and he's someone who was incarcerated. For how long? 30 years. How much has changed in that time? He should not be allowed to be on. And I feel sorry for him that he's going to continue to be in the public and victimize the public by getting a slap on the back. Poor AIC.
Thank you for your testimony. Tim Cowan. Please state your name and your ward or your address for the record. Thank you.
I always do this wrong. Mayor, City Council, for the record, my name is Tim Cowan, and I'm the chair of the Legislative Commission for the American Legion and on the National Legislative Commission. I just want to say that because it's on the record, with the legislature and so on. I'm communicating as a veteran I've sat on the first court-martial held in the state of Oregon. And what's interesting about a court-martial is we don't follow civil law, we follow military law. So what happens in the civil environment, it doesn't impact what our decision is. In this particular case that we ruled on in the court-martial kind of fits this. The person had committed a crime and had fulfilled all of his requirements that the court had placed on him. We rule that the image that would impact the military, the National Guard, the command within that military, and just like right now as I sat here and listened to the testimony, there are a lot of different opinions and a lot of impact this decision has on the image. It could be the image of the police department, the committee, the mayor, and you have to make your decision based on what does it do to the image. In our particular case, we felt that what had occurred would not represent the command and the soldiers that were under that command, that would create a problem for them. So it's all about what image does it present to you and the people that will be affected by it. Mayor, that's the end of my statement.
Thank you for your testimony. That's everyone. That's everyone who had signed up in time, but someone, yeah, you had come in later. Of course. Please come forward, state your name, your ward, or your address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
I'm Mike Finning. I'm from Ward 6. I'm very disappointed in our counselor, but you say AAIC, I say inmate. Inmate Hedquist, that's what he is. I'll give him credit. He admitted that he did the crime at 18 years old, got life without parole, and our so-called governor let him out with a lot of other juveniles that should still be locked up. It doesn't matter what let me see. I worked in the prison system, OSCI, transport unit. I dealt with a lot of inmates that were doing life without parole or 25 years to life. Most of them, especially 25 years to life, they had to prove themselves, take classes, and they might get out 30, 40 years. But when you're dealing with a life without parole, it doesn't matter what you do in prison. The president of the Lifers Club, president of this, whatever, you do life without parole. I volunteer at OSP twice a week now. Never thought I'd do anything like that. I met a guy that's been there for 50 years for a murder. 50 years. Okay, he gets out after 30 years because Governor Brown felt sorry for him? He was 18. He killed a lady, shot her in the back of the head. Bring up another one, Sterling Cuneo. He's been here before too and spoke. He did the same thing to a couple. Kidnapped him out of Salem, took him to Benton County. Governor Brown let him out then too because he was a juvenile. And talking about doing this thing, you know what your brain's doing from the time you're 10 to 32? That's BS. I don't care what there is. Most of us in here have never committed a crime. We knew what we were doing at 16, 17 years old, 18 years old, even younger, working. And regarding this background check, my question is, do you guys all get a background check to be able to sit where you're sitting? I guess yes. Well, it should be, but I have to take one, even though I worked in the Department of Corrections, I had to take another background check. I had done another background check to volunteer for Polk County Sheriff's Office. Background check. No matter, this man should never be on a police review board, ride in a police car, because part of the thing on the background check, it says your criminal history. He should not be in a car with a gun or an officer with a gun or even a knife. So I hope you guys vote to not even reappoint him again. He shouldn't be reappointed the first time. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. That concludes public comment. We are moving on to special orders of business. Item 3.A.
Thank you. I move that the City Council adopt the criminal history background check guidelines as set forth in the October 6, 2025 staff report to the City Council Boards and Commissions Appointment Committee for the applicants to the Community Police Review Board and Civil Service Commission. Second.
We have a motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. So on the December 8th meeting, I made some comments about my concern with having had requested of our staff that we review the boards and commissions, all of them, and the guidelines, the requirements, because things had not been updated for some time. And I also talked about the application process was a bit challenging in the sense that questions would be asked if someone was applying for a committee, but the question may be about being on the library committee, and that wasn't the committee that they were on. So we recognized that there was some and things that needed to be reviewed. And this was something that I was concerned about, especially for this choice that we had in front of us with Mr. Hedquist. So after our December 8th meeting, I met with our city attorney and I said, we need to have a motion regarding getting guidelines specifically for the Community Police Review Board. And so that's how this began. And so my motion is to bring this forward, and I just want to make a few discussion points on this. Criminal history is one of the factors the council was to consider and still needs to consider when appointing members to the Community Police Review Board. Recently, council was asked to consider the reappointment of Kyle Hedquist to the board. However, the council was not specifically informed of Mr. Hedquist's criminal history, nor what guidelines or standards should be applied to that decision. To properly consider an applicant's criminal history, as it is related to the CPRB, council should be informed of the role of criminal history in the appointment criteria. What types of convictions, if any, may disqualify or require additional vetting, how much time has passed following a conviction, and other information relevant to the consideration. We did have guidelines set forth at the October 6th, the staff report is attached, that were developed by the police, city manager, and legal department staff, and are consistent with the guidelines applied to applicants for police volunteers. It is appropriate that the same guidelines that are applied to the police volunteers also be applied to the CPRB applicants, where criminal history is mandatory consideration for appointment, and to the Civil Service Commission, which concerns fire service and public safety considerations. Also attached in the documents are the CPRB procedures for criminal history checks that were recently implemented by the staff. The documents establish the procedure for conducting criminal history checks for the CPRB applicants and questions that have been added to the CPRB application. The intent of this motion is to ensure clear, consistent, and transparent standards for future appointments, reflecting the sensitive nature of the CPR work and the Civil Service Commission, and to the community's expectations. To add to this, I will add some personal comments. I also want to thank everyone for their testimony, and as all of you have recognized, the hundreds of written testimony that we got. And I also want to commend everybody on this council for their past decisions and also for what lay ahead of us. These are not easy decisions, and we are often confronted with things that we wonder, did I have all of that information? Did I make a good choice? And what we do have is the opportunity for reconsideration, but we need to make that choice quickly. So I'm bringing this motion forward because I feel that we need these clearer guidelines. How can we move forward and make good judgment calls when we don't have clear guidelines? The Salem Council is not a parole board. And when Mr. Hedquist was originally appointed to the CPRB and later reappointed, the discussion concerned civic engagement, not the commutation of a sentence, and at that time there were no clear guidelines regarding criminal history, and no objections were raised by the public or by the police or fire unions. And, and based on this information and standards, I agreed with my fellow councilors to reappoint. My perspective is informed by lived experience. My father was a deputy marshal in the LA County in the 60s, and then he became a parole and probation officer, first for adults and then for juveniles, and served in that role for 25 years. We were in a household that recognized criminal justice system needs a lot of work, and it still does. And we also understood that people that had been incarcerated should have the opportunities to reintegrate into society. That was my lived experience. Over the past month, the public conversation has shifted its focus on the commutation of Mr. Hedquist's sentences, and I understand why this has been so painful. My heart does go out to Nikki Thrasher's family, and I appreciate hearing from the community members who shared the complexity of their emotions about this issue. Since the reappointment, we have also heard from the police and fire union leadership. While I am very disappointed in how parts of that were handled and politicized, I did listen, and I have taken their concerns seriously. This is how the process works. I believe in rehabilitation and the diverse perspectives that are valuable in any committee. At the same time, I must weigh the concerns raised by my constituents and by our public safety leaders. The purpose of my motion is to move us forward by establishing clear and consistent guidelines with the support of our city attorney, deputy police chief, and community services director, so our future council and committees are not put in this position again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nishioka. I would like to amend your motion. I move to amend Councilor Nishioka's motion to also require that the city conduct background checks on all boards and commission applications in the same manner as other city volunteers and employees.
Second.
Motion Hoy and a second by Matthews. And to my motion, the city currently conducts background checks on all city volunteers, except boards and commission members. Extending this requirement to boards and commission applicants would better ensure the safety of the general public who interact with our boards and commissions and the staff that support them. The cost to expand background checks to applicants for boards and commissions is less than $5,000 per year, as estimated by staff. While boards and commission members do not work directly with residents, as other city volunteers often do, they represent the city and perform important roles. Therefore, it is appropriate to expand the background check requirement to all city volunteers, including applicants for boards and commissions. Any other comment? Any questions?
Call a question.
Yeah, Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So in regards to the motion that's on the floor and changing the guidelines for potential applicants, once the vote is cast, is there a need to actually discuss his appointment?
Dan Atchison, City Attorney. So just procedurally, just to make sure we're all on the same page, there's been a main motion, which is to adopt guidelines for the Civil Service Commission and CPRB that staff have adopted. Council would be using those guidelines as well. Then now there's an amendment that would just, it's slightly different, but it just requires the volunteer background check to apply to all board and commission members. So your question is, if you end up adopting the amendment and the main motion, do you have to then consider Mr. Hedquist's appointment? And yes, you do, because that appointment's already been made. So this would change procedures prospectively going forward.
Got it. And one other question. With those guidelines that the team will work on, because I think it's you, Madam City Manager, I think also the police chief, but with those guidelines, will one of them be that a felon will not be able to serve on a board or commission?
So let me try to be as clear as possible. So for the currently, what staff is applying as far as criteria for criminal history checks for the CPRB, we have 4 different criteria, basically: a violent felony conviction at any time in the person's history, being under investigation for a crime or has a criminal case pending, any misdemeanor conviction within the last 3 years, and any other criminal history that gives reasonable concerns about the safety of others. So that's the criteria that staff is applying now for applicants to the CPRB. If council adopts the motion, that's the criteria that council would also apply. For the mayor's motion, the criteria is slightly different for employees. I don't have that in front of me. I don't want to speculate as whether it's more strict or less strict. There are certain laws that apply when the check the box laws and things like that. And so we go through a process when folks apply to review criminal history and make an assessment. And those same standards that apply to employees would then apply, they apply now to volunteers, and they would then, under the mayor's motion, apply to all board and commission applicants as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you. I support your amendment, and I support the original motion. If these vetting processes that are being proposed tonight were in place years ago, we would never be in this position tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Matthews.
So I'm just trying to get clarity, sorry. So this motion doesn't actually prohibit someone that has a violent felony from being on the CPRB or the Civil Service Commission. It only basically puts it where the staff would then give a recommendation to not appoint, which is the same thing we had before. Is that right?
Dan Atchison, City Attorney, yes, that's correct. Their guidelines are not mandatory requirements. If council wants to make them mandatory requirements, you're welcome to.
Okay.
Councilor Matthews.
So I don't know, can I amend an amended motion here, Dan? I don't know what my choices here are.
Council, if I'm reading the tea leaves, I think you'd like to amend the motion to make it the guidelines and mandatory requirements.
I'd like to make it that, yeah, if there's a violent felony, that it's a mandatory requirement, and that at least one position on the CPRB be reserved for a victim of violent crime.
Okay, so I would ask you to hold off on that motion until we act on the amendment, and then you can raise that motion.
Okay.
Anyone else? So we're ready for a vote on no? Councilor Vang.
Thank you. So in regards to the mayor's amendment, her amendment is extending the background check that city volunteers undergo and all of the requirements that they have to meet, extending it to the boards and commission volunteers. Is my understanding correct in the ballpark?
You are correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
I was just going to say, and it also is for other volunteers.
Okay.
Councilor Brown.
So thank you, Madam Mayor. So my question is, if this motion is approved, for all the current volunteers who are on any boards or commission, would they now be subjugated to have to go through the background check now also?
We haven't considered that in the case of the CPRB because staff had admittedly not been performing that background check. Once we realized it was a requirement, that's why we went and then notified members of the CPRB and conducted the checks. So most likely we would be conducting background checks on sitting board and commission members. And then if there's any problematic history, we would bring that to council's attention through the Boards and Commissions Appointments Committee.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. So I just want to repeat that, make sure I heard that correctly. So if the motion is approved tonight, for any individual that is currently volunteering on the city's board or commission, that they would have to go through a background check. The answer to what I heard tonight would be yes. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.
Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. I think one question I would like to ask our city attorney is, because we're going to be reviewing and establishing rules and regulations for all boards and commissions here in the next month or two, from what I understand, I'm wondering if this motion might, the amended motion might wait until we also have other opportunities to see what recommendations or changes that we might be wanting to make to these other boards and commissions.
I think the mayor, as the maker of the motion, can speak to whether she wants to withdraw it, but from my perspective, it's a fairly finite change that we can incorporate fairly smoothly. So no.
Thank you for that information.
Anything else? So we're ready to vote on the amended motion. Is that right? Or
so
the motion first?
Council will first vote on the amendment to the main motion, which is Mayor Hoy's motion to expand background checks to board and commission applicants. And then if that's approved, you would go back to the main motion as amended.
All right then. Will the recorder please call the roll?
A question on the floor again. Can we have that motion reread, Madam Mayor, please?
Absolutely. I move to amend Councilor Nishioka's motion to also require that the city conduct background checks on all board and commission applications in the same manner as other city volunteers and employees. Councilor Gwynn.
I am so sorry. So I just want to again clarify that a background check would be done, but boards and commissions appointment committee would still, I mean, the staff wouldn't eliminate someone's application for parks because they have a felony conviction necessarily, right? Boards and commissions would see the application and be told, this is what was on the background check. Do we want to move forward with this appointment? Is that correct?
Yes,
as happened. I just wanted to make sure.
As happened with our committee meeting.
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke. Councilor Varney is absent. Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. And now to the original motion. Yes, Councilor Matthews.
So I'd like to propose an amendment as well. And so I move to amend the motion to disqualify any person convicted of a violent felony from being qualified to serve on the CPRB or Civil Service Commission, and at least one spot to be reserved on the CPRB for a person with lived experience as a victim of violent crime.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to your motion.
I think while I agree having some solidified background checks and kind of a process for staff to review is important, it's ultimately the same position we were just in. And we, as a council, the council opted to kind of forego that recommendation and still move forward with appointing a violent felon. And so to me, this is about something further than that. This is about just doing the right thing now so that we don't end up in this position in the future, so that this is sort of out of council's hands to some degree, and that the staff are able to disqualify a person in these two committees just immediately. And I think that's appropriate. I think this experience, this particular incident, I think has really exposed that to me. Secondarily, I think so much we've talked about different perspectives that are important, but ultimately, one perspective we can never really get is Nikki Thrasher's perspective in this particular scenario. And so I think having a victim of violent crime, someone that's seen, been here, done this, that's an important voice that we don't have right now on the CPRB, and frankly, I think we should have.
Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just so I heard that clearly, so Councilor Matthews, your amended motion is that we have at least one position that someone can fill that has lived experience. Is that correct?
Lived experience as a crime, victim of violent crime.
Got it. And I do want to just say, just for the record, that it is vital. It is vital to have someone with a lived experience speak on any particular matter that either one, they have experience, or even the community has experience. So having someone's voice in that, I do think that matters. And so I will support that motion, Councilor Matthews.
Sorry, Councilor Nordyke, go ahead.
It's all right. Councilor Matthews, thank you. I think those are excellent amendments, but I'm wondering if you would consider loosening in the term, instead of victim of violent crime, I would just say victim of crime, period. Because there are, for example, victims of sexual assault who I wouldn't want them necessarily excluded. I think a victim of crime is more generalized, and I think it goes more to the spirit of what you're saying. I hope you'll consider a friendly amendment. And I wouldn't want to feel that we're closing a door to other victims from applying because we are segmenting a specific type of crime. Unfortunately, there's lots of offenses don't necessarily qualify as violent. So I'm just wondering if you would consider softening your motion to just say, add a dedicated position for a victim of crime and prohibit felons from serving on the CSC and the CPRB in the future. I'm supportive of that.
Councilor Matthews.
I think I'd be opening to amending it down to still a felony crime. I think we're all at some point in time in our lives a victim of some version of crime. You have your car broken into, you get your mail stolen. I'm in this position because my mail was stolen. I think it becomes so broad that suddenly everyone qualifies, and then there's no point in it in the first place. So I think I could see amending it down, and I'd be willing to do that down to a felony crime still, something that speaks to that higher level than myself.
Victim of felony crime. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
That makes sense to me. That sounds like a good compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
In the interest of not taxing our brains too heavily on parliamentary procedure, I would ask if council is okay with that amendment to change it to a felony crime. We can just agree by consensus. If anyone objects, they can raise an objection and we can take a vote on it.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. City Attorney, are you suggesting that we do that now before we vote? That we just be in agreement?
Sorry, I don't mean to make it more confusing. So Councilor Matthews' amendment would be modified to include a member on the CPRB of a victim of felony crime. If council is okay by consensus, we'll change his motion to say that, and then we'll vote on that motion.
And just so I'm clear.
Never mind.
Just so we're all clear. And I don't have a felon on my record. And so when I think of someone that has a felon on their record and they want to give back to society and they've had that lived experience, by default, they would not be allowed to serve. Is that correct? I see you're saying yes, but he's saying no.
On this board.
On this particular board. Just this board?
These two, and civil service.
And again, just for clarity, because I want to say out loud what some folks may be thinking in this space or even at home. We want to discredit someone from serving or volunteering because they are a felon, one felon. Just, you only need one? Is that what we're saying? Only one? I just find it funny, Madam Mayor, that we want to not have someone with a felon serve when we have a commander-in-chief that has 34. Again, I just want to say it out loud, Madam Mayor, with all due respect.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Anyone else? Okay. City Attorney.
Let's go ahead and vote on Matthew's motion just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Could you restate your motion, please?
I move to amend the motion to disqualify any person convicted of a violent felony from being qualified to serve on the CPRB or Civil Service Commission, and at least one spot be reserved on the CPRB for a person with lived experience as a victim of felony crime.
And Councilor Nordyke, if you'd like to make a motion to amend Matthew's motion, why don't you go ahead and bring that?
No.
Okay.
That seems, no, I think you've taken the concerns in. And I would also add that while this amendment, which I expect will pass, would prohibit violent felons from serving on the Civil Service Commission or the CPRB, those meetings are open to the public. So there is nothing to preclude any member of the public from attending those meetings, providing testimony, and participating, just not as a voting member.
Councilor Vang.
Thank you. I appreciate Councilor Matthew bringing this amendment to the floor and for Council to consider, and I appreciate expanding the victim seat to felony crime. I really do. I think that portion of the amendment makes a lot of sense to me. What I have difficulties with the first part of this amendment is that it doesn't leave any space for criminal justice reform. It doesn't allow our incarcerated community who have served their time and wants to reintegrate back into our community and want to serve on these boards, it prevents them from serving on these particular boards. And I heard a public comment tonight about how the Police Review Board and the Civil Service Commission, they are oversight committees, advisory committees to these agencies. And an oversight committee is tested on whether they are able to actually oversee the body that they're supposed to oversee. And by not allowing somebody who has a lived experience and who wants to be a positive contributing member on these boards, I just find it very difficult to vote yes on this amendment the way it is, but I appreciate the second portion of the amendment a lot because I think it, again, reserves another perspective on these important boards. So thank you for listening to my comment and letting me talk out loud.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. City Attorney, we are voting on Councilor Matthews' amendment.
Correct.
Thank you. Will the city recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Nay.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney is absent, excuse me. Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, now we are to the original motion.
The original motion as amended twice.
Councilor Nishioka, would you like to read the motion again?
I move that the City Council adopt the criminal history background check guidelines as set forth in the October 6, 2025 staff report to the City Council Boards and Commissions Appointment Committee for applicants to the Community Police Review Board and Civil Service Commission.
And to clarify, that also includes the mayor's motion, which was adopted by council to expand background checks to all board and commission members, and Councilor Matthews' motion to disqualify violent felons from the CPRB and CSC, reserve one spot for a victim of violent crime. Felony crimes, excuse me.
Okay, will the city recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Brown.
Aye.
Councillor Vang.
Nay.
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councillor Varney absent. Councillor Tigan.
Aye.
Councillor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councillor Matthews.
Aye.
And Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we are moving on to item 3.B. Councillor Nordyke, to your motion.
Thank you. I move for council to reconsider the reappointment of Kyle Hedquist to the Community Police Review Board and appointment to the Civil Service Commission.
Second.
Second by Gwynn. Councillor, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the first procedural step per our city attorney in order to consider withdrawing Mr. Hedquist from these two boards. So this is a procedural motion intended to basically open the door to removing him from these two boards. So I have no further comment.
Anyone else? Comment, question? Councillor Matthews.
So it's rare that I have a degree in criminal justice. It's super rare I ever get to use that because my normal work doesn't actually have anything to do with it. But so premeditated violent crimes, it's and particularly against vulnerable women, it's fairly well understood to be oftentimes about power and dominance. And there's been a lot of personal claims tonight, and just generally by Mr. Hedquist about his change and his rehabilitation. But upon simple review, it seems to me that a direct link still exists between his request to be on the CPRB and the Civil Service Commission in the first place and his desire to have power and dominance. At this moment, Mr. Hedquist has been out for about 3 years, a little over, but within 1 year of being released, his focus wasn't volunteer in a subservient role to the police, but instead it was a role of dominance and to evaluate officers' actions. Furthermore, just even here tonight, he's alluded to a larger conspiracy theory that seems to entail a corrupt detective, 4 more boys that were involved in his case, and at one point he speaks about a whole city's participation. This is clearly not a person, in my opinion, that's able to be pragmatic, non-biased, fair, or above reproach. So when we're looking at whether or not he should be on this board and reconsidering it, those are the pieces that I'll be looking at tonight.
Anyone else? Councillor Nordyke.
Thank you so much. So I think it's also worth pointing out that I am extremely appreciative of everyone who has submitted testimony. I appreciate it because we have heard a great deal on variety of perspectives, and that is greatly valued. I think it's worth pointing out the Statesman Journal reported on Hedquist serving on the CPRB with this conviction on or about November 24th of this year. And I wish that I would have heard the testimony tonight and the emails that I've received before our vote in early December, because public input matters to me and always has. And it is rare indeed that we have such a lag between meetings. Our last meeting was, December 8th? And here we are, January 7th. And that's given all of us plenty of time to reflect on a decision. Normally, we have a meeting right after that. We could have met, and I think we ultimately didn't have any meetings until now. So anyway, I just find it incredibly helpful to everyone for your testimony, and for sharing your perspectives, whether it was in email or whether it was this evening. The only testimony for which I do not express gratitude is, of course, threats of violence towards my peers. Completely unacceptable. There are ways for you to tell us that we're doing a poor job without threatening harm. So, hindsight is 20/20. And I know a lot of people who don't like to admit when they're wrong, but I do. I admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong on this vote on December 8. And I feel that leaders have a heightened responsibility to admit when they're wrong. And leaders have a heightened desire and need to fix it. And that's why I brought this motion, to fix it. So, and that is also why I brought the motion to reverse or withdraw these appointments. And to those out there who have testified in regards to restorative justice, I do want to reiterate that this council has unanimously appointed him to the Traffic Advisory Commission. And again, all of these meetings are open to the public. Anyone, regardless of criminal background, is free to attend any of our meetings, provide any testimony they wish, provide questions and comments, talk to the members of the boards themselves. Nothing in the decisions that we just made will preclude a person of Mr. Hedquist's background from attending a future CPRB meeting and fully participating in that capacity as a public member of society. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Councilor Nordyke, I appreciate the motion. Although I will not support it, I do appreciate it. Because I'm going to say what I haven't said yet. Because there is a lot of comments that have already been said in regards to folks receiving threats on their life. I joined Councilor Vang in those threats. She's not the only one that received dozens of emails in regards to threats on their life, death threats. And when I think about how we came to be in the situation, for those leaders who thought it was a good idea to put a website together to draw us into this place, I find that highly disrespectful, and I am disappointed. And everybody in this space, and those who are watching me at home, they know for a fact that this man, this black man, has always supported public safety. From day one, even before I was elected into this seat, I have always, without a blink of an eye, supported public safety. And for leaders to join together and think that a website is the best alternative to get elected officials to bow the knee, to force them to change their vote, to have folks email us all the way from the East Coast, to want to do all types of things to us, to believe that these elected officials are the ones that created the public crises, that's erroneous. We didn't create the public crises. And I'm disappointed because I expected more. We live in a society that we have folks divided on everything. You look around you in this space, you got people who don't even like each other because one's on the left and one's on the right. I really thought that we were better. Madam President, I really thought we were. But when someone is receiving death threats, who do I call? Who do we call as elected officials or people of color? Who do we call when we need help? You see how that sounds? Public safety should not be about someone's race, creed, gender, belief. It should be about protecting you regardless of your belief. And what I just said already has people angry. What I just said already has people not liking Dr. Brown. Oh, there he goes again. I'm disappointed that here we are again.
Excuse me.
We're not going to have outbursts.
So, Madam Mayor, you know I appreciate you and I always have. I just find that we're in a place how do we recover from this? I don't know. And with the folks who put this together that brought us here tonight, you have to ask yourself, what did you gain? That man back there may not get the seat. He may be booted off. But what did you gain? If you want to have a conversation about how to reform criminal justice, let's do it. But it's sad. I yield the floor.
Anyone else? Councilor Nishioka.
I want to thank both my fellow councilors Vang and Brown for making these honest statements. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Brown, I appreciate your words and I wholeheartedly agree.
Any other comments? Did you want to say something, Mr. City Attorney? Your mic's on. No. All right. Will the city recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Brown.
Nay.
Councilor Vang.
Nay.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney is absent. Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwen.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. Councilor Nordyke to item 3.C.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move for council to withdraw the appointment of Kyle Hedquist to the Community Police Review Board and appointment to the Civil Service Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second by Gwen. Councilor, to your motion.
Nothing further.
Anyone else? Any comment? Councilor Gwen.
It's tough to sit up here, and some days are harder than others. There's a couple things that I wanted to say. It has been said that I brought forth a motion back on May 13th of 2024 to appoint Kyle Hedquist to the CPRB. The fact of the matter is, the motion that I brought forward was to approve a consent agenda item. What this has taught me is, well, and then I should go back, because the initial application for Mr. Hedquist to be appointed to the CPRB happened at a boards and commissions meeting in April of 2024. There is no record of that meeting. I tried back in 2024 to get the recording, and I tried again recently to listen to the recording because I wanted to know if his application was, if people went through the application and looked at what it said. And I apologize to all of you for not, I have to be honest. His application did say that he was the president of the Lifers Club. I'm sorry, I didn't know what the Lifers Club was. That's just the truth. I didn't know. Had I known, I pulled that agenda item that night because I had a question about Planning Commission. It had nothing to do with the CPRB. So for folks to say online and for my fellow counselors to say that I'm the one that brought that motion forward, it's disingenuous because that's not how it happened. And I can assure you that had I known in April or May of 2024 Mr. Hedquist's record, I would not have voted in favor of it. I just wouldn't have. When I was, and I've only shared this a couple of times in my entire life, one of them being a couple of nights ago. When I was about 10 years old, my uncle was killed at the hands of another man. And I remember, and we lived on High Street in Salem at that time. I remember walking into our house, and you read it in books about the pain that someone feels and that cry of pain. And this happened in the early 1970s. I was 10 years old. And to this day, I still hear the pain of my father's cry. Because someone took the life of his only brother. So we do, Councilor Nishioka, we do all make decisions on this dais based on some personal experience, and I wouldn't have voted that way. So anyone who thinks and says that I'm the one that brought the motion, it wasn't knowingly. And what I can assure all of you is I will be paying attention. I will be paying attention to the applications, the applicants, and so for that negligence in April of 2024, I apologize. We did get a letter from this is Nikki Thrasher. This is her high school photo. Her best friend from high school sent this to us with a note that's, and I'm not gonna read all of it because I'm not gonna take that much time. But what she said was, Nikki was my childhood best friend. We were the kind of best friends young tween girls are before the world teaches caution. We had matching jackets. We wore a heart necklace broken in half that said best friends. She wore one half and I wore the other. It was a promise made in innocence that we grow up together. Nikki was beautiful, not just in appearance, but in the way she moved through the world. She was intelligent, responsible, and always thriving to do the right thing. She was extremely proud of her South Korean heritage and humorously introduced me to kimchi. If you haven't tried kimchi, it's amazing. She was faithful, compassionate, and deeply kind. She was the kind of student who teachers loved, always doing her best. She was the person people trusted, the person who believed in others and gave them grace. Nikki would have made a real difference in this world. Nikki did not get to fall in love, marry, have children, to see her professional goals come true. Her life ended in violent tragedy at the hands of Kyle Hedquist. If you're not, and then she goes on to say what happened, and we all know what happened. She said, "These facts matter. While I recognize the criminal justice system allows for release, clemency, and rehabilitation, release from prison is not the same as restoration of moral authority. Clemency does not undo the act, nor does it return what was taken. I am 50 years old now. Nikki should have been able to celebrate her 50th birthday on March 17th, 2025, surrounded by her loved ones, maybe even grandbabies. Instead, she remains forever frozen in time, forever young, forever absent, forever without a voice." I'm not going to read the rest, but I think you get the point, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councilor Bang.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Gwen, thank you for reading that letter, that email. I also received it, and thank you for bringing attention to that. Councilor Gwen, thank you for providing me with that additional information about how the initial motion for the appointment was made. That was very helpful, and it provides additional clarity to the facts of how all of this came about. And I apologize for making you feel like you had to go on the defensive. That was not my intention. That was not my intention to you or to Councilor Matthews or to any of the councilors on this stage. I believed I was just setting the stage for the facts for the public to know on how we came about this conversation. So I apologize to the both of you if you felt you had to be on the defensive from what I believed to be the facts. So thank you.
Councilor Gwynn.
Councilor Vang, well, and I want everyone to know, I have the utmost respect for everyone on this council. We have come so far as a group, and you don't need to apologize to me. I wanted the public to know. I mean, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and I feel like I failed by not, I don't know. I mean, I took the recommendation of the Boards and Commissions Committee, and I will be more aware going forward. So that's.
Councilor Nordyke.
I just want to say thank you, Councilor Gwynn, for your incredibly thoughtful description of Nikki Thrasher and that email and sharing your photo. Thank you. I think that so often these conversations, our victims get forgotten. So thank you. And I also want to commend my colleagues for the civility. We've had some pretty intense public testimony over the last year. But no matter how much anger has been directed towards us, I don't see anger directed among us, for which I am eternally grateful. And I also want to thank the staff, because the staff are also affected by the testimony that we receive. The anger and the vitriol spills over and impacts the civil servants who do not make the votes. The civil servants who want nothing to do with the challenges of being a public official, they too are affected. And they too get the angry phone calls and emails and so on. So I want to say thank you to our city manager and our city attorney. I really appreciate your support and your guidance throughout this. This has been one very difficult chapter, and it's not even the only one we've had. So I want to say thank you to our staff and thank you to my colleagues, because we have a meeting next week. The work continues. Welcome to 2026.
Anyone else? Councilor Gwynn, I just want to thank you for sharing your personal story. I know that's incredibly painful for you, and it makes, it enlightens me. Certainly, I won't speak for others. And unfortunately, we live in a state where the victims take a backseat to the criminals. And for you to bring her name in this environment and her photo is deeply meaningful. And I thank you very much for that. Any other comment? Will the city recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Vang.
Nay.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney absent. Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Nay.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. We're moving on to information reports. Item 4A. background information on the Community Police Review Board and Civil Service Commission appointment process. There's no presentation. We have nothing further, so we are adjourned.